think it was Thomas Jefferson that said deeds, not words, means what we say today, that talk is cheap. Yeah, actions prove a point. However, actions are still inferior to wisdom. There are actually three paths to take. There's actually more than three. There's three noble paths to take, and they're of increasing superiority. It's kind of like leaves in a stream. There are faith followers, there are good deed doers, and there are wisdom seekers. In the ancient polity, the term for a wisdom seeker is udam soto, which literally means an upstreamer. Just kind of like muck and mud, flows downstream, and of course it eventually falls off the cliff, because for anything that is born, it must necessitatively, as the Greeks said, ananke, must necessitatively get old, suffer, and die, and of course repeat, polygenesis, or punabhavati, which means again becoming, in the Pali. The faith followers, the ones that believe, and I humorously laugh at the word believe, because when someone says I believe, everything that follows after the words believe is of course of no importance. I believe, do you believe? Like I believe, when you say believe, you usually got to be holding a book, right? I believe, you didn't believe what I believe. I'm not making fun of faith followers. They're people that, they're not evildoers, and they want to do what is right. And they follow either that which they were brought up with, usually so, obviously, or they find something that is acclimate to their philosophical, rather aphilosophical position, and then they cleave towards it. Kind of like a magnet to a piece of steel. They cleave towards it. And mere belief alone, however, is just like a leaf in the stream which continues to flow downstream, but it stays within the uppermost clean portions of the water, and it is always directed at the flow itself. In this case, we were referring to the eoristos dias, or the extrinsic attribute of the good, or that which is good does good, because the good is good. And here we have, of course, principle and attribute, and that's also the reason why the first two numbers in the Fibonacci sequence are 1 and 1. 1, 1, 2, 3, 5. By the way, the number 4 is not found within the first 5 digits of the Fibonacci sequence, and that number always means time. Every ancient culture said it, both Greek, Indian, and Egyptian. 1, 1, 2, 3, 5. 4 is not present. Time exists conventionally, but it doesn't exist ultimately. There's no such thing as time. Time is only a measure of magnitudes. Just like a shadow. Shadows don't exist. Sure they do. Everybody's seen a shadow. They exist conventionally, but a shadow is just an absence of light. It's a privation. Concept reification is one of the fundamental fallacies and errors of humanity, is that they reify things that don't exist. But anyway, getting back to the topic, we have 3 types of noble folk in the world that do noble, or evildoers. That's another branch of things. Evildoers, of course, are materialists. They actually cleave towards materiality and holographic images of matter and mass and time, and they burn in that which they actually idolatrize. There we go, I missed that word again. I haven't used that word in like a decade. I'm referring to idolatry. Talk about materialism. Anyway, I'm going to edit that out of this video. So there are faith followers, and then there's good deed doers. People, as Thomas Jefferson said, deeds, not words. And this would be akin to the leaf that actually washes up upon the rock, or up upon the rock, or stays at the very topmost of the water, both in the sunshine as it flows downstream, and eventually, of course, off the cliff, or in this case, the waterfall. Deeds, or an action, is only staying on the tracks of the roller coaster of samsara. Deeds do not convey wisdom. Deeds have no connection to transcendence. Deeds have no connection, not direct connection anyway, to liberation. They are conducive to, but conduct doesn't get you anywhere. Conduct and morality is like keeping your car in the garage and perfectly waxed and polished, but you never drive it anywhere. Morality and deeds have nothing to do with reaching the far shore. And lastly, which is the most rare, is a wisdom seeker, someone who is udam soto, who actually works itself away from the flow of the stream, the headwaters, the source waters, the spring well, and heads back to pre-attribution to the source waters of one's very intrinsic nature. And of course, as I've already said, anything that is born is subject to old age, suffering, and death. This is undeniable and irrefutable. There's nobody that it escapes from that. So whence then the ultimate necessity for wisdom leading to transcendence? Transcendence has nothing to do with empirical or psychophysical or persona, i.e. the psychophysical Bob, Sue, Larry, so on and so forth. No ancient culture by either Greek or Indian or Egyptian has ever taught anything like that. It's completely erroneous. Transcendence is disobjectification. It's the reason why I'm writing a little booklet right now on the neti methodology, the apophaticism, which is, of course, theurgy, which is, of course, Platonic recollection, smriti, sati, anamnesis. Subjective synthesis is only begun and actually culminates by objective negation. If you actually think about it for 5 seconds logically, understanding objective negation being subjective synthesis is very, very easy and lucid to see. But nobody seems to think like that. You weren't taught that way in school or college or high school. Nobody was, unfortunately. Nobody has been taught that really since super rich people paid an enormous amount of money in the 12th to the 15th century for higher education, true education for their children. Hasn't existed for an incredibly long time. They don't even teach anything that good in Yale or Harvard. Nothing even halfway that good. And it's the most important thing to learn, but nobody teaches it anymore, and it's the lost. Because nobody that actually reads, Iamblichus, Plotinus, Proclus, Numenius, Syrianus, Philoponus, Plato, Iamblichus, their minds actually bend and twist under the weight of that sort of noetic intelligentsia. I repeat those two words again, noetic intelligentsia. It's like alien talk. When people read the Divina Proportione, or they try to read the Pitaphesian, or what's the book, Nikola Tesla's favorite? I keep forgetting the author. Theoria Philosophiae Naturalis, Theory of Natural Philosophy, Barod. They can't even read a page of it. It's like they're reading an alien text that arrived from, some other planet. And it's not that they did have sharper minds back then. They were, a less deluded people intellectually, and they weren't, having their lives busied with bills and computers and iPhones and iPads and countless millions of other distractions. They had their heads in loftier realms, but they also, too, had access to a methodology that I'm trying to write a booklet about that gave them access to understanding things that way. And nobody has those mental tools anymore. They can have them, but they don't have them. So those are the three noble paths of a true seeker, but the two of them are inferior. The faith follower and the deed doer are literally in the hamster wheel. The only thing where the hamster gets out of the cage and escapes our true transcendence is the wisdom seeker. Faith and deeds have nothing to do with transcendence, liberation. They have nothing whatsoever directly to do with it. They are, not my opinion, they are inferior paths. But those are the paths that certain people must follow, because people follow the paths as to each to their, I'm not trying to quote Karl Marx here, to the abilities of, because Marx said something like each to their own abilities. What was it Karl Marx saying? I am no fan of Karl Marx, by the way. This sounds very similar to his, but people follow the paths that they have the proclivity to be able, within their grasp, to follow. And they can't follow something that is outside of the spectrum of their comprehension. The faith follower doesn't understand the good deed doer, usually, and neither the faith follower or the good deed doer understands wisdom. They think only deeds are noble. Good deeds are noble, this is undeniable, but they have nothing to do whatsoever with transcendence. Morality and conduct are keeping your car clean and polished. But the reason why you keep your car in good working order is not to keep it in good working order. You keep it in good working order so that you can start the key and drive it down the path to your destination. And that's where conduct and morality ends. They are not an ends, they are merely a means. The same is true of faith, even though in a much lesser respect. I got hung up on the word idolatrous there earlier, about 20 minutes ago. I don't know why. I think I haven't used that word in maybe 20 years. Anyway, thanks so much for watching. Goodbye. I'm going to take my time to fade out of this video.